Welcome back. In the previous lesson, we created a database in our phpMyAdmin and then also created a table in the database. Moreover, we also inserted 2 rows in our table as well. So now in this lesson, we will go ahead and link our database with our chat box, or in other words, link our database with our index.php file. So to do this, we need to first go to our Atom editor, open up the folder and the 3 files that we just created, which were db.php, index.php and style.css. Now to link our database connection, or to make a database connection with our chat box, we need to go to db.php and do some PHP logic here. So first we need to open up our PHP tags, and then I recommend you to close them as well. Assign some variables. So let's say the first variable is host, and as we are using exam server, so all the files are on our local host. So our host will be localhost, and make sure this is in double inverted commas. After host, we need to type in our user, which is a username. Then we need to write our username. So the default username for exam server is root. After writing your username, you need to give another variable which will say password, because every username has a password, and in this instance the password for exam server or our local host is blank. And the last variable will be db_name. So this basically is the database name that we created in the previous lesson. So the database name was chat1, and let's close this over here with a semicolon. After this, now we need to create a connection, and the function for creating a database connection with our index.php is we need to give a variable, which in this instance will be db, and then we need to write in our query statement. So we will begin with new mysqli, and then we need to pass in our variables that we created here. So the first variable is host. Make sure you pass them in single inverted commas. So the first is host, or let's pass them without the inverted commas. Let's check if it works or not. So the first is host, the second is user, the third is password, and the last but not the least is name. So here we passed in our variables, which is our host, user, or in other words username, password and database name. Let's go ahead and save this. Now the next step is that we need to go to our index.php file, and above the doctype HTML we need to open up PHP tags again. Go ahead and close them, and over here what we will do is we will include the database.php, or in other words the db.php file, so it gets linked to our index.php. So we'll include single inverted commas db.php and then close it with a semicolon. Let's save this, go to our chat box, refresh this. So in this instance it was chat1. So refresh this, and now you can see that we do not get an error because our database was linked properly. If we do not link our database properly, it will give us an error. So let's try. Let's go back to our Atom editor, go to db.php and change the database name to CHA. So I don't have a database name CHA in my PHP admin. So if I save this and refresh my chat box, it should say unknown database. So let's save this, go to our browser, and here we have an error which says unknown database, and you need to fix it on db.php line 8. So let's go back to our Atom editor, fix our database name, save, refresh, and the error is gone. So this means that we have successfully established our database connection. Now the next step is to run a query in our index.php file. So we need to go back to our Atom editor, index.php, and under the chat box div we need to run a query, but first we need to open up our PHP tags, go ahead and close them as well, and now we will run a query statement which is equal to select all from chat order by ID, and it will be in descending order. So here we have our statement. So what we basically are doing is we're selecting all our data from the chat table and then we're ordering it by its ID in descending order. So let's go to our phpMyAdmin localhost /phpMyAdmin. So here we have our phpMyAdmin. We created this database named chat1. When we press this, we can see that we have a table. So the name of this table is chat1. And if we see the structure of this table, we notice that we have ID, name, message, and date. And if we browse this table, we see that we have two entries which are hey, how are you today? This is the first ID, and the second, John says I am great, which is the second ID. So the table name is chat1. So let's go back to our Atom editor. So we need to fix this and write chat1. So now it will take or select all from chat1 and order it by its ID in descending order. Now we need to run this query. So we'll give it a variable of run. Then we'll enter our variable db, which we entered. So basically it will run this function. So we need to enter our db, then a dash, and then the greater than sign. So basically this means that we're selecting this function, and this means an object. So we'll enter query and then give it a function running this query over here. So we'll enter this variable in these brackets and end it with a semicolon. Save this, and now we need to create a while statement. We will write while row, make sure you put the $, and then put in a statement run and our object, and then fetch underscore array and leave it blank. So this is a while statement, and we need to end our while statement after this first div. So to end our while statement, we will open up our PHP tags, end while, semicolon, and then close our PHP tags. So this is a while statement, and this means that this will keep on running this statement again and again. So we don't want this to be static anymore because we're connecting it with the database, so we want it dynamic. So what we need to write is that we need to open up our PHP tags and then echo out the database over here. So the short form for echoing out, or the shortcut for echoing out from the database is less than sign, question mark, and then an equal to. So we'll echo out row and then pass in the name, because this span tag is for the name, and then after the name we'll close our PHP tag. Similarly, with the message, we can simply copy this PHP function and paste it over here. And the changes that we need to make is that we need to change the name to message. Similarly, it's the same with the time, and we need to change it to date, because these were the entries that we entered in our database. So if we see here, we can see the name, the message, and the date. Make sure you spell them correct or you'll get an error. So here we created a while loop and then made our name, message, and date dynamic and connected it to the database.